Welcome back to Animation Studies and Practice, and welcome to week 4. As part of our online session today, we're going to investigate augmented intelligence. And we're also going to discuss how you will use augmented intelligence to create your animation timeline and collate all the information together into one project. So let's have a look.
So the first thing we're going to do in order to investigate augmented intelligence is to have a look at the before class content for this week. So if we scroll down here, you'll see there's currently 2 videos that we can take a look at. The first one and the associated activity is called What is Augmented Intelligence? And it will take you through a definition of AI and give you some examples of companies that use this area of technology. And then the exercise will ask you to write your own definition, and this will be reviewed in class. So important to have a look at that. The next video is something that's more animation industry related. So the Corridor crew has created a pipeline that allows anyone to make anime style animation, and they've currently created 2 animations using this pipeline to date. So please take a look at this for your own interest. In class, we'll have a look at some more examples of augmented intelligence used in animation. And in the rest of this before class video, we're going to take a look at the program, which is Padlet, or one of the programs that you can use to create your animation timeline. But before we get to that, please go ahead and complete these 2 videos and associated activities. So the next part of this before class video is going to take a look at Padlet, which, as I was said before, is one of the programs that you can use to collate all the information on your animation timeline into one document, and will also allow you to present that information quite nicely too. So you'll want to go to padlet.com and to log in. Now, I would suggest that you log in using your student account, so your student Gmail account or Google account, so that you're able to access this account at uni and also at home. As long as you're in Chrome, you are logged into your student account. So once you've done that, and you've created an account, you're ready to then start a new Padlet document. So I'm in my dashboard here. Again, once you've joined, it'll take you to your own dashboard. I've got a few projects already, but of course you will probably have an empty dashboard, and the first thing you will want to do is to make a Padlet. Now, my recommendation would be to discuss amongst your team who's going to make the initial Padlet, because you'll only need to make one, and then everyone will copy and paste their information into that document. So first up, before you go ahead and make anything, maybe just check in with your team and see who wants to do that, and then that person can share the link with the rest of the team. So if we go and make a Padlet, just at that bottom up the top there, we can then choose a particular style of document. So there are a few different styles. We're going to choose timeline. You can also have a timeline with different sections, and that will give you multiple timelines. And that might be a nice way to show each person's work in a different section. Or if you want to have something that looks more chronological and it's all in one line, then you might just choose a good old regular timeline. So we're going to choose that. And it'll ask me to start adding some settings. So I'm going to type in animation timeline for the name. You can add a description if you like. You can change the wallpaper. So you might like to change it to something that's related to the theme of your timeline. A lot of these other things are just there for you to edit if you'd like to, but they're not essential for the project. Okay. So you do have your URL there. And we should be able to now move out of that. So we don't need to look at that anymore. So I'm just going to close settings. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to share the timeline so that when you share a link with your teammates, that they're going to be able to not only view the timeline, but also add their own information. So we should be able to edit the share settings if we go up the top here. So we can invite members. So you could invite using email addresses, people to your Padlet. So that's totally fine. And that'll mean that I'll keep the board private and only editable to you. And however, if you want to, you should be able to change privacy and make it public. So if you do that, and then make sure visitor permissions can write, or you might even be able to change it to can edit, depending on what settings you'd like. Then that's another way to go about it. So that's really two ways that you can share this document with the rest of your team, either invite them using their student email or change the privacy to public so that it doesn't matter where they're signed in, how they're signed in, they can always add stuff to the animation timeline. So we're going to hit save just to show you those options. Now, if to share this document with the rest of your team, you can then copy a link to the clipboard and paste that into Slack or in an email to the rest of your crew so they can then start editing the document. Okay, so they're the share settings. The nice thing about Padlet is it's very easy to start putting a timeline together. Once you have all the information, written about your for your animation timeline, it really is a case of starting to go in and copy and paste the content from your project document into your timeline. So what I've got here is a example of a timeline item, and it's just 100 or so words on the film Coco and talking about the technology of Coco. And I've also got here underneath a image, which I'm going to include in the post. And I've also got the reference information there. You'll notice too that I've got the in-text referencing there for this. Okay, so that's all ready to go. So what I'm going to do is to copy and paste. Don't need to copy the title. I'll just copy the information, go right click copy, and I'm going to jump back to my Padlet timeline and just click this button down the bottom here. So this will allow you to create a new post. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to call it Coco. And I'm going to add the year in brackets. And I'm going to write this information or just paste what I have. Okay, so it's come up there. You might like to go through, depending on how Padlet has copied that into the document, you might like to go through and just take out some of the extra spaces there, but that looks all good. Now, the last thing we want to do is to add an image. So we should be able to upload a file. So I've saved a file, which is the poster of Coco. So I'm just going to go and locate that. And it's going to start to upload it. So it might take a little while to upload. It probably is faster to use a URL link, but an image is fine. So that's just about finished. The last thing I want to do is in the caption for the image is to include the reference information there. So I'm just going to jump back to my document, copy and paste that. Oh, here we go. and that should be done. So then to have that post appear in your timeline, we just hit publish. Okay. So they're sort of the basics to do with Padlet. When it comes to actually presenting your work, you should be able to convert this into a slideshow. So if we jump over to the settings on the right-hand side, there's this little play button. And if we hit play, it will then turn our timeline into a presentation. And we can see all the text that we added there. So you could always use that option for your presentation. So that's probably it in terms of the basics of Padlet. Of course, there's plenty of other things you can customize, but we'll leave it as that because that's really all you need to know in order to collate your animation timeline information into one thing that you can present in class. Probably the only other thing to really remember is before you're submitting your project is to take a screenshot of your part of the timeline and add it into your document here where it says please add a screenshot. Okay, and also a link to that Padlet. So that's everything. We'll leave it there. You might like to start your Padlet before you get to class. Alternatively, you might like to leave that until class to start your animation timeline when you can kind of collaborate with the rest of your crew and always come back and use this as a tutorial that you use in class to start adding stuff to your timeline. So good luck with it, and I'll see you next week.